Hello and welcome back to PL2W Extra. Today we'll be talking about the 2020 Formula One Italian Grand Prix from Monza, otherwise known as the Temple of Speed. Let's begin. Moving on to the first topic of today's discussion video, qualifying. We have had the 3 qualifying sessions and here are the results and the grid before the start of the race. Abay, do you want to run us through?
Yeah, thanks, Warren. As we're being accustomed to, we're seeing Hamilton and Bottas going on the front row. I think the Mercedes is just superb compared to all the other cars. And then surprise packages in places 3 and 4. Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez. Not really for any hardcore F1 fan. It's not really a big surprise there because of the straight line speed that the McLaren and the Racing Point carry. Max Verstappen in 5th, Lando Norris in 6th. I'm a bit surprised that we didn't see Daniel Ricciardo go more up the grid because he has immense straight line speed in that. Lance Stroll and Albon making up 8th and 9th, and Pierre Gasly qualifying in Q3. He's been very consistent this season, making it into Q3. He's not qualified under 12th this season. Then Danny Kvyat, Esteban Ocon, I think they'll be happy with that. They can get in and amongst the points. Charles Leclerc, bad day for Ferrari again, but we're being accustomed to that. So should we just call it a normal day for Ferrari in the 2020 season? I don't know. Kimi Raikkonen getting out of Q2 for Alfa Romeo. Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean in 15th and 16th respectively. Vettel out in Q1. That's a surprise even for Ferrari standards this season. Then Antonio Giovinazzi, Russell and Latifi bringing up the rear.
And where do we stand on Lando Norris there? Do we think he has done well to get into 6th at Monza in a McLaren car?
Yeah, actually. Listen, Verstappen's an immense driver, and I think there's just more experience above him. If this was in 10 years' time, I think we'd be seeing Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz's position. Immensely quick driver. He's got his talent. He did well to qualify above Danny Rick.
I'd agree with that. And also, going back to Carlos Sainz in position 3 on the grid, he is a very quick reaction driver. He works well with certain events and then the ability to react off of those. So I think that's a reason why we're seeing him higher up the qualifying grid of late. Would you agree?
Yeah. And listen, I think the McLaren qualifying battle is always interesting. It's at 4-4 for this season. Who will win it? It's always tight.
And as we heard earlier, a few weeks ago, Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault car seemed to think that the car does very well on low fuel, very strong, but on higher fuel needs more work. Would you see that as a reason why he's in 7th, or is that more his ability, if you like?
His ability is in no question. I think maybe the higher fuel does put it into perspective, but I think the really low downforce of that Renault car that they're running in Monza is just not there on the corners. I think he'll be getting a nice slipstream from Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, actually. I think he'll be getting a nice slipstream from Max Verstappen in the dash of turn 1, so I wouldn't be surprised if he then makes up the places.
Nor would I. Another interesting thing to note, both Mercedes drivers opting for the medium compound in Q1. So is that anything that could be used as a way of describing their success in qualifying? But as you'll see later, they chose to start on the soft compound for the actual race. Why is that?
Well, they don't have a choice, actually. If you know that in Q2, your best lap time, which was on the softs for them, they would have to start that in the race. And can I just say before, this is recorded on the Saturday before the race, so we don't know what's happening in the race.
Fair enough. And then looking at where we stand with the championships before the race, Hamilton, Verstappen and Bottas, your top three in the Drivers' Championship. And in Constructors, Mercedes roaring away, and Red Bull just behind. And then McLaren, Renault. Down at the bottom is Mercedes, Williams, Mercedes. And looking over back to the drivers again, we have Lando Norris in 6th, but right at the bottom, Latifi, George Russell and Romain Grosjean in 19, 20 and 21 respectively. Anything interesting to note there, Rebecca?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Hulkenberg. I know that's not the first thing that should catch your eye at 14th, but I think 2 races, 6 points. One of them he didn't even start. So the race he actually started, he got 6 points in. He's good. Very good driver.
That's good for him, isn't it? And then looking over to the top right of the screen, we have previous wins for Italy. 2015, Lewis Hamilton. Rosberg, 2016, 17 and 18 Hamilton. And last year, Charles Leclerc. Where do we think Leclerc stands with regard to doing it again this year?
Points are a high ask.
Yeah?
Points are a high ask for the McLaren. No, not McLaren, Ferrari. I think if he can get away with the 8th, 9th or 10th, he'd be pretty happy with himself. I think if Vettel can get into that low points again, he'll be happy with himself as well.
Indeed. And then the track, Monza, the Temple of Speed. It's a very fast track. As soon as we come out of it, when we come into almost a chicane through corners 1 and 2, and down at 11, the final corner, that's always a difficult one. You sometimes get some interesting crashes happening there. So it's definitely worth noting for that to be a high area of drama towards the latter stages of the race.
Yeah, I think, the Parabolica, which is turn 11 actually, I think that'd be really interesting to see how the drivers go about it. There are a lot of lap times deleted in qualifying, how wary they are of it, and what will the consequences be if any of them do cross the track limits, you know what I mean? Indeed,
and through those 11 turns, it's a decent amount of switching. I mean, over to the far side, we have 3, 4, 6 and 7. They are all difficult corners. I mean, to be fair to Monza, it is a really hard course. And with some of those corners, it's hard to get the speed up, ready to come out onto the straights, particularly for some of those lower cars.
Yeah, totally agree.
Moving over to then the drag reduction system, as they come out of the start, coming out through the speed trap, and then turning around 1, and then heading out towards DRS1. DRS1, I think, is where drivers like Lando Norris, Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, they'll be looking for DRS1 to try and use that power in the car to then propel themselves higher up the grid, because obviously, although they're starting high, they're not always renowned for getting the top places, so they'll be looking to use the DRS. Would you agree?
To be bluntly honest, no, because let's cut to the facts here. DRS is only enabled after 2 laps, and I think the Mercedes will be pulling away after 2 laps.
You think by 2 laps it will be too much of a gap for them to use to make that up?
2 laps, 2 seconds. 2 laps, 1 second on a lap. That will be 2 seconds. You need to be within 1 second for DRS.
Fair enough. And then the tyre choices for today. Pirelli have selected C2, C3 and C4, hard, medium and soft respectively. Medium, 0.6 seconds slower per lap on average and 1 second for the hard. Do you think there's a situation in which some of the lower cars would rather go with the hard compound?
Listen, I don't think the hard compound's a bad idea, because what you could do is you could go run the hards in and run them until like lap 40, and then you can have a quick blast for softs. Listen, I think it's not a bad option, but I think most people will start on softs and mediums and then go to hards at the end to do the undercut. And now really with this Formula 1, it's something that I feel strongly about. None of the teams go to the overcut anymore. The overcut, for new viewers of Formula 1, is where you pit late and you're on fresh tyres and overtake. I don't know whether that's driver skill or whether they're just not confident to overtake.
And then here we have it, the tyre choices for the drivers. Kvyat going for the hard, and Vettel, the only 2 drivers in the grid opting for the C4 tyres. And we have 6 drivers in the lower half of the grid, 14, 15, 16 and 18, 19, 20, opting for the medium compound to start on. Where would you stand on that?
Why are Leclerc and Ocon on the softs? Listen, I think preferably I would start on the mediums and then switch on to the hards, like because you can't do a 2-stop in Monza. That would just take so much time out. Leclerc and Ocon, they need a better.
And then moving through to the final results, the race has happened.
This is recorded on Sunday after the race. Let's just clear that up.
It is indeed. Moving on to the final results, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz and Lance Stroll, the top three. Lewis Hamilton taking the fastest lap, although taking 3 pit stops in the Mercedes, and also getting a 10-second stop-go penalty for entering the pit lane when it was closed. That same thing happened for Giovinazzi. So
he didn't take 3 pit stops. He only took that 1 pit stop, which was fatal, and then he pitted in the red flag, which we'll come on to later, and then he served the stop-go penalty. So overall, he only took 1 proper pit stop.
1 proper pit stop, I suppose. So yes, he did take the fastest lap, and it really was the that penalty that stops him, I suppose. Pierre Gasly, though, I think, although we're looking at the table and we're seeing that Lewis Hamilton obviously got the penalty, as did Giovinazzi, and then we'll come to the 4 DNFs at the bottom of the grid in a second. Even with that situation, is Pierre Gasly who you would have expected to come on top? For me, definitely not.
Listen, I think it was Carlos Sainz and Lance Stroll, if anybody, who I would have from that position to come on top. Listen, I think Pierre Gasly, he's superb. Only the second AlphaTauri driver to win 109th different winner of Formula 1 Grand Prix. And could we follow the same success of Vettel? Could we see in 2 years' time, when the new regulations come in 2022, Pierre Gasly winning a world championship? I think it's possible. But first of all, what's got to happen is he's got to be in that Red Bull, and Alex Albon's got to finish in that Toro Rosso. He finished 15th today. Another disappointing race for him. Although he's Thai British, I would like to see him get demoted. He's not a good enough driver for Red Bull.
He is not, no. And then moving down, we have Lance Stroll. Lando Norris taking home a 4th. He'll be very happy with that, and I think we can agree that that's probably a very good finish for him at Monza.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Carlos Sainz was really brilliant.
Carlos Sainz, good. Yep.
Yeah, McLaren and the team just tried to. I think McLaren and the team were just like, let's just focus on constructors. Let's just build on that second. But Carlos Sainz, I like him. He looks like his dad, like his winning mentality. I think next year Carlos Sainz is going to find it very hard in that Ferrari. But you know, if I was him, I'd be saying, let's just rip up the Ferrari contract.
I would agree. And also, like I said earlier, his reactions. I mean, that's obviously, I would say that's a key part of why he came up so high in the rankings, because of the way he was able to get that good start, keep up with the Mercedes, and then move on from there. Would you agree?
Yep. I think, listen, I was watching the post-race interviews. He was saying he would have been targeting a second anyway. And I think if it wasn't for the red flags and all the safety cars, that would have been perfectly realistic, and what a result that would have been for him. Second, and he's in between the 2 Mercedes. That's something only Max Verstappen can achieve in a better Red Bull car.
I agree. And then also a couple of other notes. Alex Albon incurred a 5-second penalty for failing to leave a car's width between his vehicle and the edge of the track. And then looking at some driving. Sorry?
He still wouldn't have been in the points. So
no.
Listen, he's really got to up his game. He's got 1 more race for me. If he fails in that race, he's out.
I'd agree there too. And then looking at some driving styles, Hamilton seemed to do a lot of short shifting throughout it. I mean, that had obviously no effect on his tyres, but it doesn't exactly go a long way in helping the power units to sustain their full ability in the Mercedes. So,
I think there was a lot on it for Hamilton anyway. So he would be equaling the most consecutive points finishes with 41 races. He would be equaling Michael Schumacher's all-time record of 221. Listen, why wouldn't you? And this shows why he's the best driver in the grid. He came from 30 seconds behind the pack and he came 7th. Listen, although I've been pinning Alex Albon to the hilt about how he's not good enough, he's good on the defensive side of it, and he's got past Albon, Raikkonen, Grosjean, Latifi, Perez, Kvyat, and Ocon. Truly brilliant.
I'd agree there. And Bottas, his Mercedes teammate, he seemed to be running offline a lot. I mean, that's obviously okay, but it was causing him to miss some DRS zones, which could have helped him to maybe climb up, perhaps catch up on Lando Norris on a couple of occasions.
Really, I'm just going to pin the first fault on Mercedes as the team. That car is not good in turbulent air. No, why do you think he couldn't get past Lando Norris? He had to go out of the slipstream because of the turbulent air. I think that's the one place where the Mercedes seems to be struggling. And it seems crazy. They spend millions, if not tens of millions of pounds developing this car, and yet it can't go a second in front of a person. A normal road car can do that. Come on, guys, up your game. Let's get a good race car in, and it'll be good viewing. The car will be perfect.
I'd agree there again. And like I say, I mean, like you say, pin the blame on the team. Yeah, I would agree with that, because if you look at the race, they were almost having a go at him for it. I mean, it's not his fault the car can't cope.
No.
And then we have Leclerc choosing to change his tyres from the soft to the hard on lap 19. Was that a wise decision?
To the soft to the hard on lap 19. Yeah, it was actually a wise decision.
I'd agree there as well.
Right?
Yeah.
We're talking about Leclerc, right?
Yeah, talking about Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, listen. I thought he could have been on for points after seeing that strategical move. And then big crash, red flag.
Indeed.
That was good to see him walking away well. I mean, I was going to be scared.
Yeah. And moving on to another note, a bit of a sad one here. The Williams family have left F1 after 40 years. Maybe they haven't won championships, but sure, they've been a key part of the sport. So to see them walking away.
Wait, let's just do this up. They've won like 8 constructors championships.
Oh, they have.
Mansell, Hill, Prost. I'm struggling to think. Let's just Google it. And they won like 16 constructors.
Yeah, they did. I mean, maybe in recent years, maybe not had that success so much, but
I think ever since they've gone to that Mercedes power, it's gone really down. Because I remember them in 2015 getting podiums with Massa and Bottas.
Those days seem to be a bit behind, but obviously it is sad to see them leave after 40 years, and obviously the future of the team hangs in the balance now. Who will take it over? Will it be the same? Will they get more success, or will it just be the end of Williams as we know it?
Someone has made it. Someone has made it over. It's been put up. It's been acquired by Dorilton Capital. So well done to them for purchasing Williams. And yeah, listen, it'll be sad to see Claire Williams leave the paddock. She was always a good face. And they were ever so close to getting the points on her last race, which I felt bad, actually.
Oh, they really were. Yeah, Nicholas Latifi.
Yeah, Latifi and that would have been good for Latifi's confidence. Usually we just see him getting out-qualified and bullied by George Russell. And that would have been good for his confidence if you say, hey, George, I got a point up on you.
Quite right. So, yeah, it would be sad to see them go, but hopefully there's a brighter future ahead for Williams. And then the bottom 4 people on the table, Verstappen, Leclerc, Magnussen and Vettel. As you can see, DNFs. And I have some information on that. So, Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari, in the period of like 6 and 7, he lost braking.
Sad, actually.
Yeah, he lost braking, which means that he pulled out of the race really early. So that wasn't obviously a good start for Ferrari. I mean, Ferrari do really have to up their game, not maybe with the drivers as well, but with the car. I mean, we've had lots of problems. I mean, the saying goes, if you're fast at Spa, you'll be fast at Monza. They weren't fast at Spa, and they definitely weren't fast at Monza.
They've got to up their game.
They do indeed have to up their game. And then we have Kevin Magnussen. I have a quote here. On lap 17, he pulled out of the race, just outside the pit lane, parking up to the side. And I have a quote here from his team radio. "Oh, something broke." That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, actually. I think the K-Mag incident was the turning point for Pierre Gasly. If it wasn't for that, it would have been Lewis Hamilton beasting the race, as always. And really, that's it, I think, on this F1. There's not much more to say. It's been a brilliant race. Well done to Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz and Lance Stroll.
Indeed it was. And just another note on Charles Leclerc. He had a crash on the last corner, Parabolica. It was a massive crash into the barriers on lap 23. Luckily, he walked away from the scene unharmed, although I think it was probably a different situation for the car. And good to see that he's well, but it was also very disappointing for Ferrari, because obviously they have a double DNF for the first time since the 90s. That's obviously very unfortunate for them in a season where they've already been struggling massively.
Yep.
And I think that does wrap up what we have to say. Oh, Abe, one thing, driver of the day.
Oh, driver of the day. I'm tempted to go Pierre Gasly, but I've got a left field choice. The man finished out of the points, but I'm going to go with the Iceman, Kimi Räikkönen.
I'm going with Kimi Räikkönen.
He made a lovely strategy. If he was in a better car, I'm telling you, he'd been second, if not first. He's brilliant.
Again, I could go for Pierre Gasly. I mean, it's obvious to see why. I think I might go for a bit more obscure one again. I think Lando Norris can be really impressed with the fourth placing in the McLaren. After qualifying 6th, he's done well to obviously make those 2 places up. And for him, 4th, high up in the points, that'll be good for his confidence and for McLaren for the rest of the season. Hope you don't disagree too much. Let us know in the comments what your driver of the day nomination would be. But for now, that's all we've got time for. Goodbye.